Hey folks, Brendan here from Blue Light. How are you all doing tonight? Going live just to share with you some learning from the past few days. Been doing some one-to-one coaching with individuals who are preparing for the direct entry detective process for several forces, for Sussex, who've got their own particular way of doing things, for the Metropolitan Police, who've got their own unique way of doing a direct entry detective assessment that involves in-tray, exercise, briefing. And then for also for Police Now, who have their own direct entry detective process, which is about 5 hours long and quite complex. Now, for all of my clients who I've been supporting, and this has been on a one-to-one basis, they've all started off by saying how they've spent a lot of time learning their competencies. So let's just dig out the competency thing. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I've not even got a copy of it. No, I have got a copy of it somewhere, but I tend not to refer to it. No, there it is. There it is. This thing here. Are we all familiar with this? The competency and values framework. And within it, you'll find things like the wheel of confusion. There you go. You've come across that before, I'm sure, the wheel of confusion. Learning this is not going to get you through. What's going to get you through is being familiar with the sort of structures that you can utilize, where it doesn't matter what they throw at you in terms of an investigative process that they want you to describe or handle, or an entry exercise, or a briefing they need you to do, or a presentation. It doesn't matter. As long as you've got a structured approach that includes certain key things, then you are going to nail it. You're going to nail it. So let me give you some examples of some of the things that you would consider as a structured approach. 10 things. And I'm going to whiz through these to make sure that this is a fairly snappy Facebook Live, and then I'll answer any questions for you. Actually, before I start off, let's do some shout outs for those of you who have just joined. There's quite a lot of you who've joined, but Facebook actually highlights people who have joined. Not everyone, but some people. Hey, I've got some loves and likes there. So give me some loves and likes if you're looking forward to 10 things. 10 things that will hopefully inspire you a little bit, whether you're going to be you're going through the detective process, or you're going through any process at all. So Ajmain, good evening to you. John, Terry, Ma, how are you doing? Matt, Dom, JL, and Lee. Lee, we are going to meet up in a couple of days, aren't we? A couple of days. Did we work it all out? It's in my diary anyway. It's in my diary. Hey, lots of loves and likes coming. Fantastic. That's what I want to see. And Emma's joined us as well. So let's whiz through 10 things. Like I said, having a structured approach is absolutely key. So it doesn't matter what they throw at you. It doesn't matter what is in the written exercise. You've got a structured approach to deal with it. And why am I such a big fan of this? Well, I'm a big fan of it because this is what I used when I was an inspector. I soon realised, both as a sergeant and as an inspector, that it doesn't matter what the incident is. It doesn't matter what I'm asked to do in terms of, right, you've got 10 minutes and then you need to give a briefing to a superintendent about whatever it might be. I'm using the same process every time. So it doesn't matter whether a plane falls out of the sky, someone's been shot, or I'm going to give you a gory example of one I came across. Well, I didn't come across it, my officers did. Someone had been murdered and they were busy, they're in the middle of chopping this person up and putting him in the bath so they could bag him up and dispose of him later. I mean, awful, gory, horrible. And one of my officers came across one of the individuals concerned, going to get some cigarettes at 4 a.m. I mean, covered in blood. I mean, what the hell's going through their minds? Tragic, though. I mean, tragic. I mean, I've got to remember, someone died at the end of all of that, but it doesn't matter whether it's that or anything else. Structure. All right, okay, let's go. First of all, in a briefing, if you just approach it and think, oh, I think I'll do a bit of this, a bit of that, a bit of the other, you're going to forget things. So we use the II March process. This comes from the Joint Emergency Services Interoperability Protocol, something called JESIP. If you look it up, JESIP, JESIP, you'll find this method of briefing that all emergency services should be used to. It stands for information, intention, method, administration, easy for me to say, risk assessment, communication, health and safety, stroke human rights. I March, great way of doing a briefing, no matter what you're given. You'll nail it if you use I March. And there's a lot to each one of these as well, but I'm just going to skip over it. Role plays. GMP asks you to do a role play to be a detective. Police now ask you to do role plays to be a detective. We're going to kudsa them. Kudsa. So it doesn't matter what the individual is complaining about, ranting about, something's not right. They're not coming. The role play's not going to come to you and say, "Hey, everything's great. I think you're doing a fantastic job. Just thought I'd let you know." They're going to come to you in a big complaint, or it's going to be, "No, I'm not. I am not going to be a witness. Last time I was a witness, I got treated like shit. I'm just not interested." So you're going to get something like that, or a victim who's reluctant for some reason. For the GMP role plays, I think they do something like a neighbour dispute. What's that got to do with being a detective? I don't know. Anyway, kudsa, you're going to confront the situation. You're going to understand it by asking questions that you're going to TED-pie in a simple to complex way. You're going to define and summarise what it is that they've said. You're going to seek solutions by putting the onus on them to provide solutions that they think are viable. You're going to indicate how you're going to assess and monitor progress as you implement those solutions, which is going to lead to a certain result. KUDSA is a non-contact conflict management model from the police. Works every time. I've been using it for years. It works every time. Safeguarding. No matter what they give you on Police Now or in the Met system, in-tray or briefing, there's going to be someone who needs safeguarding. So in this respect, then you'd be looking at the sort of triangle, how at one corner of a triangle you got the police, the other corner of a triangle you got the Crown Prosecution Service, and the other corner of the triangle you've got partner agencies, and in the middle you've got the victim. So all of those services are linking up to safeguard the needs of the victim. There's going to be some immediate things you need to do. So short term, medium term, long term. You need to identify the risk, the ongoing risk, and what you're going to do to manage that risk. And for that, we're going to use MAPA. MAPA stands for Multi-Agency Public Protection Arrangements. So investigate, have a look at MAPA. Take a look at what the local MAPA meetings do in your area, so you can talk about it eloquently. So that's number 3. Number 4, take bold, decisive action. I've had some feedback from one of my clients who said they went for a Police Now detective assessment. I've not got the result back yet, but they felt as though one of the situations was kind of urging them to take action in terms of a charge or an arrest or something like that. Bold, decisive action. Have a rationale for it, but do not sit on the fence. Be bold, folks. Where's number 5? Number 5. 5 building blocks. If you're going to be a detective, you should be aware of the 5 building blocks, the 5 pillars of any investigation. Your first role is to preserve life, and then you're going to preserve the scene, and then you're going to secure evidence, and then you're going to secure victims and witnesses, and then you're going to go and secure the suspect. And unless the suspect's staring you in the face, you need to do all of those things first. Otherwise, you've got a suspect and you've got nothing to put to them. Number 6. Where's number 6? Risk assessment. Linked in with risk assessment. Talk the language of threat, harm and risk. So think about where the threat's coming from. Think about what harm would come to the victim or witnesses or individuals should that threat come about, and what is the risk of it happening. Threat, harm and risk. There's a Thrive model and a Thrive Plus that I go into in more detail on my courses, but there you go. Think about, that's the sort of language you need to be using. What else we got? Number 7, the ABCs of policing. Assume nothing, believe no one, challenge everything. So this links in with number 8, which is to be professionally curious. So question everything. Be professionally curious. This is one of the biggest criticisms in serious case reviews for the likes of Victoria Climbier, Baby P, young children who've died at the hands of their parents, that social workers, doctors, police officers and other professionals were not professionally curious about what was going on. They lacked a level of professional curiosity which was expected of them, and they didn't display it. Number 9, have an investigative mindset. So be thinking about analysing information from a variety of sources, looking at corroboration, both forensic, both through witnesses and both through technology such as CCTV and phone work. And lastly, number 10, think about the golden hour. So in any investigation, you really have, just they talk about it being a golden hour. This isn't a myth. You really do have an hour. Once an hour is gone, you're going to find that witnesses slip away. You're not going to be identified a victim. Your crime scene's going to get messed up. You really do have an hour to get all of this right. So it's essential that you move fast in terms of whatever it is they give you to deal with. You've got to move fast. You've got to move methodically, and you've got to think about whilst you're dealing with all of those things. So if we think about, we've got a suspect, we've got a victim, and we've got a scene, we've got another triangle here. So at the top you've got the victim, then you've got the suspect, then you've got the scene over here. There's your triangle. You can only go to one of them. If you go to a suspect and then go to the victim, you seize the victim's clothing and you seize the suspect's clothing, then there's a risk of cross-contamination. If you go and get a statement of the victim and then go and arrest the suspect and you seize clothing from the victim and then you seize the clothing from the suspect, there's an allegation that the only reason why fibres from the victim are on the suspect's clothing is because you transferred them. Equally, if you go to the scene and you're at the scene and then you go and arrest the suspect and there's evidence of the what is at the scene on the suspect's clothing, then again you've contaminated the forensic evidence. So every contact leaves a trace. That's Locard's principle, that every contact leaves a trace. There's 10 things, folks. 10 things. Quickly run through them, but that's how we pass. That's how we ensure that we pass these challenging processes. We've got a structured approach that we've practiced, and we're aware of, and we're going to apply it to anything. Now, I just came up with those off the top of my head. You know, I scribbled them down just before. You know, there you go. There they are at the top. I just thought, right, what would be helpful based on the coaching I've been doing over the past week? And I just came up with these 10 things. So they're in no particular order, but they just give you a feel for the sort of preparation that you need to do. And you may be thinking, well, it's really unfair. How am I expected to know about these things? Yeah, it is unfair, especially for the detective process. I mean, I know on police now that one of the assessments is asking you about how you'd investigate a serious wounding with a knife. I mean, how are you expected to know about that? If you've got a mother or a father who's a detective inspector, then it's a walk in the park. If you've got a brother or a best friend or a sister who's a detective, hey, they can give you advice. What they can't do is give you advice about how to approach each one of the assessments and to nail it in terms of making sure everything links in with the competency and values framework. So that's why learning this doesn't work, because when you put into place all of these structures, all of the competencies and behaviours here just fall out of the sky. I promise you. First thing I do on my webinars, interactive webinars for the online assessment course, for the detective process, I just get people to bin this. just bin it, put it to one side. You don't need it. You need to be aware of it, but you just don't need it because it's not going to help you. So hopefully that's been helpful, folks. Let's do some more shout outs. And whilst I'm doing those shout outs, if you've got any questions, just type them in and I will see them. If you type them into the comments, I will see them. So a lot more of you just started watching. So Paul Bootlace, what an awesome name that is, Paul Bootlace. I hope that's your real name. Doesn't matter if it's not. Aisha, Tom, Lewis, Daniel is watching, Warren's watching, Scott, Paul, Tom, Andrea, Josh, can't even pronounce that next bit, Terry, Mark, Jack, Joe, Savahia, and Paul. is saying, great, useful info as always. Take it on board, folks. It really works. Well, thank you, Paul. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If any of you got any other questions, then you need to be quick now. Get them typed out in the comments box because I'm about to go. So for those of you, Sava here, Joe, Jack, and Mark, and Terry who just joined, I'm going to go in a moment. But when I do go, I'm going to press the finish button. So when I press the finish button, I will then press the save. So you'll be able to watch this later on. You'll be able to watch it later on my Facebook page. And also I'll get a recording of this and stick it on YouTube. So if you're watching this on YouTube, it's all right. There's no point in putting comments in because I'm not there. But check the links below. There's some awesome things for you, some awesome resources. One of them, which I'm particularly pleased to announce, is the ebook version of my shameless plug here, How to Succeed in the Police Recruitment Process, even if you have no idea where to start in your preparation. That book's going to give you an awesome foundation for success. There's a link to the ebook version, and the reason why the ebook version is so awesome is because it's half the price, and because it's an ebook, I can put all sorts of links in there to my free webinars, question banks, and all sorts of other material that's going to help you kick-start the process. So hope you like that. Andrew's saying thank you for the presentation. Paul and Jean have just joined. Esther's saying, just found out today I passed stage 2 of my assessment. Thank you for your great videos. Thank you, Esther, for the kudos. If you love what those videos do for you, then please put something on Trustpilot. It'd be amazing if you could. Otherwise, I shall catch up with you soon, folks. Thanks very much for joining me tonight on this Facebook Live. Catch up with you soon. Stay safe.